Alrighty. We back, baby. Alright. Hey guys, it's Gabby Elizabeth. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and if you're not, welcome back, loves. Hey guys. It's been what? 2 months since y'all saw me. And in my last video I said I would try to post weekly. I'm so sorry. I won't lie. Life been lifing. Life has been lifing. And that's no excuse. Creatively, I've just been in a funk. And I had no this week, as it's the Easter season, it's Holy Week, or as my dad likes to call it, the Week of Passion. I've been really reflecting. I've been doing a lot of reflecting since the year has started. I would have touched on it in my last video, the New Year's video, and that hasn't stopped. This week has been very insightful, and the main thing I was thinking about was the importance of why Jesus not only died for our sins, but why he suffered for our sins. I think that's something that's very overlooked, because I think not just as Christians but as people in general who know God and who know the story of Jesus and his death and resurrection and everything, we tend to just think of him as this divine being, not really thinking about the fact that yes, he came down, but he came down as a human being, fully human, like you and me, flesh and blood. He felt everything throughout the suffering. But before I go any further, I was just thinking about all of that, and I just wanted to touch on that today. I don't know if I want to call it a devotion or a Bible study. I'm just gonna talk to y'all because it's Good Friday, and I just want to share with you guys. I haven't talked to y'all in a hot minute, and what better way to come back and just talk about my favorite thing, my favorite person, the Lord. So before I go any further, make sure to do the big three: like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to share with your friends, and let's build a community and let's be friends. So you would hear me say earlier that my dad calls Holy Week the Week of Passion. And some of you may know the very popular movie, The Passion of the Christ. A very hard movie to watch. I won't lie to you, I've only watched it in full length twice. And for it to be a Christian-based movie, it's one of the hardest movies to watch. And it's not just the movie itself, it's the whole sequence with Jesus' suffering from when he was betrayed by Judas and his disciples straight to when he was crucified. And the whole topic of passion and the week of passion and the passion of the Christ, it's not, the word passion is not really defined as what you think it's defined as. It's not like, oh, I have a passion for this. The passion of the Christ is really this is why I don't like recording in my room. But anyway, the word passion in the context of the Bible is really defined as suffering, pain, the agony that Jesus went through. So I really just want to touch on that and the significance of Christ's passion. So let me get one thing out the way first. without Christ's suffering, this whole thing about Easter and Christianity and having a relationship with God and the whole spreading the gospel would not make any sense. Without Christ's resurrection, this would make no sense. I wouldn't even be making this video. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 13 to 15 says, if there is no resurrection of the dead, then not even Christ has been raised. And if Christ has not been raised, as I said, our preaching is useless, and so is our faith. And even more than that, we are then found to be false witnesses of God, where we have testified about God that Christ has been risen from the dead. But he did not raise him if in fact the dead is not raised. So as I said, if all that didn't happen, Christianity would have no point if Christ was not resurrected. But thankfully, the resurrection did happen. And if it weren't for that, boy. So because all of that did happen, we are assured and we have hope and we have faith, and all of this exists. So for those of you that don't know the story of Jesus and his suffering, even though you should know that story, even if you're not a Christian, everybody knows that story. From the beginning, Jesus was persecuted by everything is falling. just give me a second. Jesus was persecuted for claiming to be the Son of God, though he was, and he was crucified. But it's not just that. It's not just he was persecuted, then he was crucified. There were a lot of things that happened in between that. So the whole thing about him being persecuted, his friend betrayed him, Judas. Judas betrayed him for a sack of silver, right? And then he went through a trial, a very unfair trial, but it's the story, right? His friends denied him. He went through an entire thing where he was brutally beaten. And it's not just like when a parent slap you. It's like they used a whip with glass shards on the leather, and they beat him on his bare back with the glass, piercing, scraping his skin, and it was gruesome. If you watch The Passion of the Christ, you know how gruesome that was. It's a reason that movie was rated R, because it was a brutal beating. And right after that, he had to carry the cross that he used to be crucified with up a hill. And if you really delve into that whole sequence of him carrying the cross itself is extremely heavy. My dad had explained it to me one time, but truth be told, I don't remember how heavy it was. But one man should not be carrying it. There was a point in time where someone did help him to carry it, but overall he carried that heavy cross on his shoulders up a hill, only to be laid on it, nailed in his hands and his feet to that cross. They put a crown of thorns. If you're Jamaica, you know maca. They pierced that on his head as a crown, piercing into his head, his skull. Today ain't my day for recording, but I'm gonna continue. Put the crown of thorns on his head and raise the cross so that he is hanging from the cross by the nails on his hands and his feet for hours and hours and hours. And as I said before, I don't think we take into consideration that Jesus, as I said before, Jesus was fully human. Jesus felt the sting of being betrayed, the sting of being denied by his disciples, being abandoned by his friends. He felt the overwhelming pressure of being persecuted for something that he is. He felt every single hit from that whip on his back. He felt his flesh being torn. He felt the pressure of the cross on his shoulders and his back, his wounded back. He felt the pressure on his legs having to carry it up that hill. He felt the pressure of the nails. They were probably rusty, piercing his skin through his bone. Everything. He felt it all. He was human, and he suffered all of that for us. And I think we often take it for granted that Christ suffered so that we can live. And this is not, me saying this is not for you to be like, oh my god, Christ suffered for me. No, it's something we should celebrate. I'm repeating it so much because it's so relevant. If Christ did not suffer for us, we would not be here. Before Christ died for us, you had to carry animals to the temple and for the priest to intercede for you when you sinned every single time. And because Christ died for us now, we don't have to go through that. We can just go to God and He will listen to us and we are forgiven. It's so simple. Just a simple prayer to God when we are stumbling. And the thing about it is not just the fact that He suffered, it's the fact that I said it in my Christmas video, the last Christmas video that I posted, that, you know, sorrow and sadness can only last so long. Christ suffered for so long, and 3 days time He's going to conquer death, hell and the grave, and He's going to rise again. That is why we rejoice, because at the end of the day, when all is said and done, Christ has the victory. We have the victory. We have been forgiven. We have been given grace. We have peace, knowing that Christ lives within us. So how we approach this as we go on in our lives, because we often want to bypass our suffering. We often want to skip past the bad parts and skip to the good parts. It would be nice if we would have like a remote and just skip through all the negativity and just take to the positive. But without suffering, we can't really bask in the joy and the peace and the positivity. The reality is, all we can do is endure. And sometimes enduring the suffering is so long. That's why they call it long suffering. But we can find hope in the story of Jesus' suffering. And in the midst of all of that, we can have comfort in our ability to help serve and make a difference with other people. So as we think about Christ's suffering and His death, let us not think of it in a way where it's depressing, or yes, it is depressing, but let us try to keep in mind that this is just one part of the story. This is just a small part of the story. It's nothing compared to the victory that He experiences after, just 3 days after. And we can rejoice in the fact that suffering is not permanent. And that's all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe and share. Happy Easter, happy Good Friday, and I love you guys.